Welcome to the Love, Purpose, Connection podcast. I am your host, Estelle Bingham, and together we'll be delving into the profound meaning of love, the driving force of purpose, and the beauty of connection that shapes the fabric of our lives. In each episode, I sit down with some of the most inspiring individuals out there to understand the ways love has touched them. Rādhikā Dās, a London-based Kirtan artist and Bhakti yoga teacher, has been practicing for 16 years. Born, raised and living in London, he is dedicated to helping people find spiritual fulfillment through mantra, Bhakti yoga and meditation. His work spans over 30 cities and countries worldwide, including residencies at Om Nom in Islington and in New York, as well as multiple retreats in India, Italy and Belgium. He is also the host of the podcast For Soul's Sake, and his new book, Mantra Meditation, Guided Chants to Heal Your Mind, Body and Soul, is coming out in January 2025. It's coming out this year. So super exciting times for you.
Yeah, everything's happening.
Everything is happening. Yeah. And I am, I feel very privileged actually to have attended an early Om Nom, one of your Kirtan sessions back in the day.
Look at that.
And it was, it filled me with so much love. And I really feel it's important in this podcast episode, what I'd really like to communicate is the power of chant, the chanting, and what and the power of mantra, and how this is actually a journey to love.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So let's talk about that, because I love the idea of the mantra as a compassionate companion.
Yeah.
You spoke about it. Think about mantra as a compassionate cosmic companion. What does that really mean?
Yeah, I think we relate to sound in a very intimate way. The sound of someone's voice immediately sets off your thoughts of impressions about that person. Music brings up very tender emotions. You could say the same thing in exactly the same sentence in terms of the composition of words, but the sound being different relates to your heart in a different way. So that premise is there. Sound is important. It creates atmosphere, it creates energy, it creates emotion, it creates closeness and intimacy. Mantra, yes, it is sound that uplifts us and makes us joyful, but it's described that mantra is also related to the subject of that mantra. So say, for example, if I'm chanting Estelle, 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 yes, the name and the sound vibration is there, but it's relating to the person, Estelle. So in the same way, mantras are very much linked to personalities, to supreme divine beings. And so it's very tangible to feel the presence. And I don't mean to get woo-woo so fast.
Let's get woo-woo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do this.
But the idea is that these mantras are connecting us to supreme divine persons. And in so doing, you can feel that presence. It's like if I was to, personify love, what would love look like to you? You'd come up with a color scheme, or you'd come up with maybe it's male, female, etc. And so in the same way, we understand that in the ancient Vedic science of mantras, that yes, they're sound vibrations, but those sound vibrations also relate to divine personalities. So there's a chance for intimacy. There's a chance for a relationship.
What I love about this idea of the sounds, of the and also what the sounds hold and what they've been holding for thousands of years. When we chant, also we sort of activate the power of all of those. It feels like when we go in and we take an ancient mantra, we're actually activating like the lineage of that mantra, the lineage of that sound.
Yeah.
So even if we think about Om and we imagine that as the first sound, if that's pronounced correctly.
Yeah.
But this idea of every single person who's met that mantra or spoken that mantra, chanted it in community or alone, with the intention of bringing in something divine or touching the divine, we have a chance to sort of also harness that energy. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I mean, you're pretty much on the money that you can harness the energy, just like, you've got a playlist for when you go to the gym. You're trying to harness a particular energy when you go to the gym. I don't know very many people that listen to classical music when they're pumping weights. In fact, the speakers in a gym won't be playing Bach or Mozart. They'll be playing something that's got a rhythm and a beat and something that's going to encourage you to lift those weights or to run on the treadmill, etc., to create rhythm.
Yeah.
When you're feeling sad and down and hurt, again, it's very difficult to listen to songs that are all about springtime and blossom. So harnessing energy through sound is something that's often forgotten about because we use so much of our sight. We use seeing as believing, but hearing is also a dimension by which you can capture, harness, bathe in different energies. And you may not believe this, but try it out. Try just putting on a soundscape, closing your eyes, and seeing what the different sounds do to the energies in your body, in your mind, maybe deeper in the soul. And then you start to get a sense that, damn, this is a sense of the body that I really need to focus on. I need to spend more time seeing where it leads us. And I guess that was part of my journey as well.
Yeah. So let's peel this back a little bit because,
sure.
of course, you're sitting here today and you're like the epitome.
I don't know. I'm trying.
You're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
You're the epitome of the sort of, you are the Kirtan, you are our man in the
Trying.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. And you're sort of emanating. You've got that energy. It's kind of in you. So we're kind of feeling it. It's in a cellular way. So when you walk into a room, you're kind of carrying your work. And that's also always a sign of a really powerful practitioner, right? Is that because there are many practitioners out there, as we know, who are not necessarily carrying their work. And it doesn't mean that we don't have our days where we're in our shadow because we're growing all the time, right? So that's the other thing, to recognize that we are human and we're perfectly imperfect. But you all are also carrying this vibration, and it's really tangible and I can really feel it, which is why I loved that. I also loved that Kirtan, and I will be back because for me it's really important to clear energy and it really it helps me, being embodied in that way and singing and using the throat and being in that. It's just so healing. But let's peel back the story to when you were in your teenage. You were sort of a teenager, and I read in the sort of introduction of your book about this idea of two worlds, and you find yourself at the Hare Krishna ashram temple in Hertfordshire in the UK, and you're on another sort of summer retreat, or and you've managed to get there, but no one really knows about what you do. You've got like a group of friends in London and you're kind of clubbing, and I don't know if they're drinking and what they're up to, but you've got this secret life where you go off and you kind of hang out at the Hare Krishna temple. And this particular year you have a girlfriend, and she's just broken your heart in that sort of real first love and only love, which we'll talk about later. But that first love sort of, teenage angst, real pain. And you sit down and you're in a kirtan again, but it feels like it lands in a new way. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that.
Spiritual experiences peel away the layers in ways that we can't comprehend. They help us to reach source or reach the true self and a higher connection in methods, in paths that we can't truly understand. And a big lesson for me was that if you feel that when you're digging in a particular spot, that the walls of that hole that you're digging are getting a bit damp, then keep digging, even though there may be things that don't make so much sense to you. For example, for me, when I first came across the mantra chanting and bhakti scene, I found it quite weird. And for me, chanting audibly and sound vibration and mantras and, spirituality just felt a step too far. But I just remember feeling that the walls on this hole that I'd been digging in this spiritual community started to get a bit moist. And that's a sign that water's close. So I just decided to keep digging. And I think oftentimes, even though we may take to a spiritual practice or a wellness practice, and you might feel after 1 week nothing's quite happening, there are things happening on subtle layers, on subtle levels of us that we just don't understand. And so, yes, I came across Kirtan and I came across the bhakti scene, and I had an initial touch point, but nothing really much was there, contrary to what people would expect in a book where you go, yeah, you touched it and it was the answer to all my problems. It really wasn't. I felt like it was nice, the people were nice, and the practice was tolerable, if that.
But you were a bit whatevs about
whatevs.
it.
Yeah, I just couldn't get with it.
Yeah.
And I think the penny dropped when my girlfriend at the time broke up with me, and there's a lesson in that. We learn more from dark moments than we do from mountaintops.
Yeah. I always say our breakdowns are our breakthroughs.
Yeah. And that was a chance for me to try and do something different. By doing the same thing again and again and again and expecting different results. Einstein calls that the definition of insanity. That if you're expecting your mind and your heart to change by doing the same thing every day, day in, day out, and expecting different results, that's insanity. So I thought, all right, well, let me give this chanting thing a try. Really dive in, put my reservations to one side and get stuck in. And I think in that moment when you got nothing else to lose and you've really tried to reach out in a sincere way, whether it be a divine source or whether you're trying to just change up your life to mix it up, I think the universe kind of starts making its plays more obvious to you. And so that was my experience that, I first came across it and thought it was weird. And here I am talking about it all the time. My friends of old still think I'm weird, but that's cool.
But you've got a whole new lot of friends now. Let's face it, all over the world.
A lot of the old ones are coming back in as well.
Of course they are. They'll be there doing the ecstatic dance at the end, for sure. And so the girl who broke your heart at 16, you then married.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to meet her, and she's just, what a beautiful, shining soul she is.
She is indeed.
Now, you wrote that she was actually an atheist.
She was.
And she was, she was an atheist, and kind of part of the reason why you held a little bit of shame about being, at the sort of kirtan in the chanting scene was because you didn't really want to be too woo-woo.
Yeah.
But then you married her.
I mean, I basically made it very clear to her that I didn't want to do the life that everyone else was doing. And I remember sitting on the edge of my bed one night at university and hand in head. And she walked in and she said, what's going on? I said, I don't want to do this anymore. She said, you're breaking up with me. No, I'm sick and tired of going out, getting drunk, trying to have fun with people that I don't really know. And she said, so, okay, what do you want to do then? I said, I kind of want to share spiritual stuff with people. And she kind of wide-eyed looked at me, and I remember she just leaned back and said, all right, let's give it a go. So the next day we went to the university library and we printed out flyers with the words, what would you do if you had 24 hours to live?
I like that.
Just black flyer, white writing.
It's kind of
very
cool.
Simple. Yeah. Standing out on campus. And no, I'd never, ever promoted anything in my life. I was at, late teenager, early adulthood, standing out in the cold. It was October. And she's standing next to me and she goes, okay, what do we do next? And I'm shivering, holding these flyers. And I just said, I didn't say anything. I closed my eyes and I just said, if there's anything divine out there, if there's a God, if there's any truth in any of the spiritual stuff, just give me some strength to try and do something less ordinary. I want to live a life less ordinary. I want to try and help people to see that life's not all about eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Life's not all about filling your bank balances and finding ways in which you can dominate others and use others, but there's a chance for us to become loving individuals. And so I made this small, quote unquote, prayer. I opened my eyes and I went up to the first person and said, what would you do for your 24 hours to live? And I don't know, like probably, go out drinking with my mates, innit? I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, we're having this spiritual conversation. Come and join us tomorrow night. If you're interested, come and join us. Same thing again and again and again. Spoke to hundreds of people that day. And the next day in this room that we had rented, I put out 3 chairs because I was like, no one's going to turn up to this stuff. And on that first event, 75 people showed up. I was like, what the hell am I going to talk about now? So I tried to say what I wanted to say and try to make people understand through humor and through whatever little charm I've got to try and get them to see things beyond the curtain. And the next week, 150 people showed up. And this continued for 3 years. And what I used to do is, my wife, being atheist at the time, I used to encourage her to just MC at the beginning. So I'd just tell her like, hey, why don't you just welcome people to the space and, tell them what the topic is, maybe do an icebreaker with them, and then sit as part of the audience. And I had no intention of kind of like preaching to her, but inadvertently she heard the words that were coming out of my mouth and seeing the effect it was having on. And I think what it is if we can make spirituality and wellness relevant, accessible, and without sounding cheesy, cool. Yeah. Your friends and family are going to go, oh, okay, it makes sense. It's relevant. It's accessible. I can also see myself doing that. And it's mainstream culture. And so I think that really changed her heart, that she saw that it was a potential path. You just got to open the door slightly for people and then give them the choice whether they want to walk through it or not.
So this is going to be incredibly encouraging for all of those people who are listening and watching, who either have sort of just happened upon their path, their spiritual path, or are incarnated into families where they just recognise no one. So they'll be the one soul who is either healing the whole line.
You're probably listening to it right now, aren't you?
They'll be listening to, who's that? That one person, that one person's listening to it right now. And, it's lonely. It can be really lonely. And also, and even in spiritual communities, there's a lot of ego in spiritual communities. There's all sorts of things happen in different spiritual communities. Don't get into spiritual community and it's all okay. But this idea of the softening of her heart, and that's a really beautiful thing. And how things sort of just gently really landed for her is actually very encouraging for everyone out there who does have the challenge of family or partners, or who just don't get it.
People really don't care what you say until they know that you care. People don't care what you say. You might have the deepest knowledge on spiritual science. You might be listening to this thinking, my family just don't understand me. I've got all this to say to them. I've got all this, in terms of ideas of and how they can improve their lives and how they can live a fulfilling life with purpose and connection and love. But they just don't get me. And most of the time we have to think, am I talking to them in a way that shows that they understand that I care about them? Because they may not care what I say, because maybe I'm saying it in a way that doesn't show the care. And, people will never remember what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel.
That's very true.
And so when we have like a deep message, or we've got a profound something that we know is going to change the world, it's about, how do I say that in the most loving way possible? And sometimes it's not even words that need to be said. It's just, how do I treat that person with respect, with appreciation, with love?
And compassion, right? Because the patience that you exercised with your wife now, that real patience, a sort of non-judgmental and just compassionate, I'm just meeting you where you are. I'll just meet you with love. I'm just staying what I always sort of advise is a sort of just a curiosity, to stay in expansion and
100%.
curiosity. Those are really the two words. And I'm expanding and staying curious. So that means I can, there's somewhere in the middle where I can meet you. So you don't have to agree with me, because especially in these times, we are, beset in the world by these conflicts.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about the ego, and I read about the, and how we can chant and start to alchemize the ego and our ego defenses, in different ways to alchemize our ego defenses is really what spiritual, or the journey is. It's really what the path is. However you take it, it's ultimately what we're doing, right? Yeah. We were just bringing our self-actualization is just bringing the ego right into the light, out of the shadow, so that we can sift and transform. But in these times of conflict in the world, how do you feel Kirtan speaks to these times?
Oftentimes when people talk about spiritual practices in relation to world happenings, spiritualists can be accused of spiritual bypassing. Like, you're not really dealing with the issue, Rādhikā Dās. Like, you're chanting and you get everyone happy and dancing and all that. But what about the people across the world who are stuck in war conflict? What about the people that are going hungry right now, Radhika? What about the people who are struggling to just pay their bills? And the honest answer is that first we got to appreciate that we're not, in one sense, the active warriors to go out and serve everybody. But what we can do through spiritual practice is awaken the true self. And by awakening the true self, and what do I mean by that? I mean beyond the body, beyond the mind, truly understanding that you are something divine. And by doing that, you put on almost like spiritual beer goggles, and you see things, it's called Shastra Chakshus, you see things with knowledge. You don't see things from the perspective of how am I going to use others? Because you may not be creating war, but on a daily basis, how much damage are you doing in the lives of others? We don't know. But if we can see from the eyes of knowledge, from the torchlight of knowledge, of spiritual awakening, we can treat people with more compassion. The ecology of the heart is the starting place for peace in the ecology of the world. But if we don't take care of this thing here, it's like this. If you spend all day, I don't know, watching your favorite Netflix show, you would most likely, a little part of you starts to imbibe the qualities of that Downton Abbey. Start walking around and speaking as though you belong in the era. But that association, it affects you. And in the same way, there's spiritual practices, chanting, meditation, breath work, whatever your spiritual practice is. Maybe your spiritual practice is going out in nature. But those start to have the effect on your consciousness that then project into the world in such a way that other people feel the effect. And so you may not feel like you're ready to go on the front line in a war field. You may not be ready to donate all of your money towards hungry people. But at least if you can acknowledge that you're not in the center of attention, people like to sit at the front of the bus, at the back of the cinema, and in the center of attention at all times. And if we can just understand through spiritual awakening that it's not all about me, baby. There's a chance for compassion. There's a chance for a domino effect of love and compassion. And so, yes, I'm not directly dealing with the issue, but I feel in another sense, yes, I'm directly dealing with the issue, which is the false ego, the false identification of self. What do you think?
I think hallelujah.
Hallelujah to that. Yeah?
I think hallelujah to that. I think absolutely. Yeah. Because it's similarly in my work, this idea of what is this? What is it all about? We're called to something. Yeah. And I'm also called to the workings and the journey and the magic and the alchemy of the heart. And really, for me, this is where it starts. And this is where it starts for us, not in the mind. And we do our bit, and we all have to do our bits as human beings on the planet. We do what we can.
That's it.
And we resonate. We do resonate. And when we are awake to our heart and our lives and who we are in the world, then we are more awake to these things that are happening.
Yeah.
It's not that we're doing this in isolation and we're spiritually bypassing. Some people do spiritually bypass, but that's not robust, what I call robust spiritual practice.
Mm-hmm.
Robust spiritual practice is you're meditating, you're doing kirtan, you're working on your shadow, you're, in your heart, you're embodying, and you're in the world. That's how our connection grows. That's how I feel you more. I can only feel you more if I can feel myself. If I can't feel myself, then I can't really feel you, and I don't really care.
Yeah.
And when you spoke about this word, care, and what it really means, I have to feel that you're caring, and it's totally nonverbal. But to embody that, to really feel it, then it's something that has to have been happening. It has to have been happening. And so, and that's why we do these. That's why we come to these practices that are so precious and potent and powerful. Hi, it's Estelle here, and I'm so excited to share my new book with you. Manifest Your True Essence, Clear Your Blocks, Find Your Joy, Live Your Truth. This is more than just a book. It's an invitation to come home to your heart. Within its pages, you'll find the guidance to reconnect with your true essence. Through gentle meditations, heart-centered practices, and soulful wisdom, you'll learn how to release old patterns, embrace your divine spark, and manifest a life filled with love, purpose, and connection. You can pre-order Manifest Your True Essence on Amazon or wherever books are sold, and begin the sacred journey back to your heart today. Remember, you are love, you are light, and you are infinitely powerful. You've got 10 chapters of your book, and I really wanted to bring one of those chapters to the audience, anyone who's tuning in right now. The Get Happy Inside, Sri Rama Jaya Rama. Tell me a little bit about that.
Happiness is the reason for which we do a lot of stuff. In fact, we probably do everything in our life to be happy. And yet, when we express happiness in the world today, it's often met with harshness. Like I remember, for example, I was recently in a public atmosphere, and I was just happy. I was listening to some kirtan in my ears, had my headphones in, and I was smiling. And one gentleman who was standing in front of me said, "What's your problem, mate?" Huh? No problem. I'm smiling. What are you smiling at? No, I'm just listening to some spiritual music and I'm happy. Because anyway, stop looking at me. I was like, I wasn't looking at you. So, people have a real problem with others being happy. It's like, for example, when you go to dinner with someone and you ask them, "How are you?" If the person opposite you says, "I'm really happy, I'm really fulfilled in my life right now," then it's hard to connect on each other's joy, isn't it?
So you feel people can't hold... because
we're shy of being happy almost.
And actually just being in that real, that abandon, that joyful state.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think it's because we're made to believe that this place that we live in is, it's meant for hard work, and it's made for hustle, and it's made for a lot of painful moments. And therefore, when the happiness does come, it's only when you're drunk and you're having a birthday celebration. But happiness isn't just meant for rare occasions. It's part, according to the Vedic scripture, according to the literatures of the ancient East, as one may call it, it's our original state. Ananda mayobhyasat. We are happy by nature. And so unlocking that inner joy takes some work. It takes us to understand that really, above and beyond everything, I can still be happy even if things aren't going my way. That's what spirituality teaches us, actually. How to be happy regardless of the external situation. That's what people are looking for when they go to monasteries and they meditate. They want to bring some sort of steadiness in mind. In fact, did you know that the Sanskrit word for a temple is mandir. Mandir. And what does that mean? Man means the mind, and dir means to steady. To steady your mind amongst the crashing waves of life, that brings us happiness. And so this chanting of Shri Ram, Jai Ram, it's meant to also unlock that. Because through the audible sound vibration of this mantra, by chanting this mantra on a daily basis, or even for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and sitting with the fact that you are innately joyful, and that your connection with the Supreme, can I say the G word here? Is that allowed?
We'd say the G word.
Say the G word.
We say the G word every time. Bring it on.
God.
Yeah.
Connection with God brings about joy. It's because of our previous experiences with religion, with rituals, with harshness that has turned us away from that. I think if you ask most people, they'll say, I was born Christian, I was born Muslim, born Hindu, but I consider myself spiritual. And the tragedy is that these traditions, we've kind of thrown the baby out with the bathwater. It's like when you bathe the baby, and those who don't know that saying, when you bathe the baby, I've got a really cute baby right now. When I bathe her, after I finish bathing her, I don't throw her out with the dirty bathwater. But I think what we've done is we've lost the essence of religion. Sometimes we get so focused on sects, sectarianism, and we get so focused on the rules and regulations that we forget the essence was to find a practice that steadies the mind, that helps us to realize we're something divine, and that supreme connection will make us happy. And so this chanting of Shri Ram Jai Ram, it's not to convert you to anything, because you're already happy.
And you're already God.
Yeah.
You're already divine.
Godly.
Right, godly. You're already in your... You already have a true essence that we come from a place of love. So that's just returning. We're just returning there, aren't we? And I love what you're saying about how we've got a little bit lost in all of the sects and sectarian and all of the stuff, all of the kind of the minutiae of the
minutiae. I love it.
It's a bit of how the ego, how we love as human beings to create reasons to separate. I'm going to separate from you because I do this and you don't do that, and I look at that and you and all of these things, and we love a bit of this aversion to oneness.
Yeah, that can there's nothing wrong with being discerning and choosing who you love intimately. I don't think that's a problem. I think the problem is that we've become immediately judging and immediately hateful of people, even though we don't know them. I think that's a problem. Even with your worst enemy, I mean, who has enemies nowadays? But you've got someone that you maybe don't like in your life. Can you think of, I'm looking at camera, can you think of that person, someone that you don't like, that rubs you up the wrong way? And can you just spend the next 10 seconds thinking of one quality that you appreciate about them? I know that they're horrible people and they've done horrible things to you, but is there one quality about that person that you can appreciate? If yes, you've made progress towards loving them. You've made progress towards becoming a happier individual. Because unknown to the majority of people in the world, happiness is an inside job. And
also, when we forgive or begin this sort of the process of forgiveness, because it can take a while, but we step on the road, we release, and so then we are in a state of non-attachment, because these people that we have all of this stuff happening with are in our energetic field. We're carrying them. We're carrying all of that, all of those emotions, that are not helpful to us at all. So that brings us on to the next one. Well, I've got a few actually, but I'm going to just have to narrow it down. You've got amazing ones. You've got Namaste Narasimhaya.
Yeah. You're doing really well in the pronunciation.
Overcome fear and anxiety. By the way,
in the book, there's pronunciation part as well. So every chapter I put a little story about how that mantra relates to me. I put, so that's an anecdote section. I put a section on how the ancient history of that mantra and a story to do with the ancient history. Then I put a pronunciation section, a meditation in each chapter. And also you get to scan a QR code and chant with me.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
We love a bit of that.
So
we love a bit of chanting
hopefully
with
it's
you.
accessible for everyone.
We've got the loneliness
Yeah.
chant, which I feel is so important because I write about this in my book actually, and that's coming out soon. But the loneliness chapter and how we're actually also alone. And what that means, when we come in to the dimension, we're coming in, it is a dimension of separation. And actually, but that loneliness, brings us back to us, back home to God, really. It brings us back, it invites us back. And so I love this Radhe Govinda. I love that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to end with the Access True Love.
Yes.
Obviously, because
Everyone's looking for some love.
we all love a bit of that.
Yeah.
So talk me through the Maha Mantra.
Yeah. What can I say in such a short period of time about a mantra that will change your life in such ways that you never dreamed of, as it did mine? On Valentine's Day, when you're trying to buy your partner, especially maybe in the traditional sense, the stereotypical sense, men buying flowers for women, what flower would you buy on Valentine's Day for your beloved? What would you say, Estelle?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, flowers are actually a big love language for me. So I'm like, yeah. So,
but traditionally speaking,
but traditionally, I'm
stereotypically,
roses. It's
red
all
roses,
yeah, it's
right?
red roses.
Now, interestingly, if you asked your partner what's their favorite flower, they may not say red roses. Like, for example, for my wife, it's calla lilies. And so on Valentine's Day, she appreciates calla lilies. And I think love is such an interesting word because in the English language, we only have one word for it. Whereas in the Vedic, in the Sanskrit, there are very many different variations. There's parental love, there's conjugal love, there's friendship love, there's loving your enemy. There's so many different types of love that are there. And so to access love, first we need to understand that there's a variety of languages of love and that there's love requires, how do we say, attention. You need to understand and be attentive to what does the beloved want. So when we're talking about divine love, bhakti, which is the last chapter in the book, a divine love, a love supreme, we need to understand what is it that's in the heart of my beloved with a capital B? What is in the heart of God? That's quite an esoteric thing. We're going straight into the depths of it, but that's quite an esoteric thing. And divinity wants more than anything that we appreciate and love one another, and that we make everything an offering of spiritual service. So if I'm going to be on a podcast, then let it not be about me. Let it be about me glorifying the Supreme. Let it be about me encouraging others to be more of service to one another. And in that way, the love naturally expands. So the Maha Mantra, when you define it, it translates as, please engage me in devotional service. So use me as a vessel, as an ambassador for love. Use me in the service of higher consciousness. And that helps us, number one, to step away from it all being about me and my happiness, my joy, my validation, my accreditation, my growth, me, my, self. Gets out of that headspace already. But then to see yourself as a loving benefactor of all beings, you might think that that's exhausting. Like, Radhika, give me a break, mate. Like, I just want to be happy. But the biggest way to be happy is to serve. To love means to serve. When you're buying those flowers, you buy the particular flower that your beloved likes. And so what is it that's in the heart of the people? What's in the needs, interests, and concerns of the people at large? How do I relieve myself of material suffering? How do I not die? How do I avoid disease? How do I see others with the eyes of love? These are the needs, interests, and concerns of the people at large, isn't it? So the Maha Mantra unlocks love within so that you can go and be loving without. opening a hand, opening a heart, going and giving. And it's not just meant for people who are in front of microphones. Resources are not the only way by which you can be loving. Humility, by becoming a humble vessel. And humility, let me define that, doesn't mean to think less of yourself. You're not crap, you're not low, you're not stepping, people won't step all over you. Humility doesn't mean to think less of yourself. It means to think about yourself less. And when you're thinking about yourself less, you got more time to think about the greater issues of the world, of people's hearts. And so that's what a Maha Mantra is all about, bringing about this humility, asking to be engaged in divine service. And in so doing, I can almost bet my bottom dollar, if you listen to any of that and you follow any of it, you'll be happy.
Humility is a big, big one. Humility is so fundamental, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like you say, it's not about thinking or
less of yourself.
Less of yourself. It's just about this grace, which for me it's a grace.
Yeah.
And just
it comes from the word humus. Humility comes from the root word humus, which means fertile soil.
Yes. And that's where, and it's actually when you are in that state, then you're also, everything about your lifetime can land in that fertile soil.
Things can grow.
Things can grow.
Things can grow in that fertile soil.
So that brings us to the Love Purpose Connection podcast, and those words. What do they mean? What do they mean to you?
How long have you got?
Well, we've got, it's been such a nice time sitting with you.
I kind of defined love already.
Yeah.
To love means to serve. Understand that you are an incredibly powerful vehicle of loving service. Know that whoever you are, you've got invested in you a lot of talent, strength, and ability. And so long as you use it for yourself, you may not always be happy. But if you can find a way in which it serves others and serves the supreme, the divine, whatever, whoever goes, whichever name you choose for that, by the way, it's completely interchangeable. But as soon as you can connect your talents and your abilities in loving service, you'll be happy. To love means to serve. Purpose. I think this can be broken down into two ways. One is your svadharma, and the other is your sanatan dharma. Svadharma means your worldly purpose. So you may be a mother, a father, a son, a worker, a boss, a leader, a CEO, whatever your worldly dharma. Find out what you're good at in this world and find out what you like to do in this world. What you're good at, what you like to do, the intersection, that's your svadharma, your worldly purpose. And then understand your sanatan dharma. So what is it when all of those roles are stripped away? What is your eternal purpose? And
Absolutely.
your eternal purpose links to the word above, to love means to serve. And then finally, connection. Understand that you are connected to other humans, even though you don't know their names. Understand you're connected, for me anyway, I'm talking to myself here. Understand that I'm connected to the world and the people who are in it. I understand that my connection runs much deeper than this body of blood, bones, veins, etc. That there is a deeper connection that has been longing for your embrace from before you were born and long after you die.
Perfect.
I'm a bit of a lecturer, I'm sorry.
I'm loving that.
Once you get me going, I'm going.
Listen, we've got you going and I love it. What I want to do now is a little bit out there, but I'd love to do as on our outs from the Love Purpose Connection podcast, because these mantras, I like the idea of just, we can do them wherever, you can do them wherever you are.
Yeah.
You don't have to be at a kirtan, although, by the way, they're incredible. And it's great to be in community. But it's a wonderful thing to just bring into your life. So I think let's have a few.
I knew you were going to ask me to do that. So what I'm going to ask then is, so if I can invite you now to sit tall. And if you're doing something that's, I don't know, chopping vegetables or you're driving, then please do not do this. But close your eyes. I can imagine someone driving and going, not doing it. But sit tall, close the eyes, and drop the shoulders. and relax. I know that in your mind, there may be 100 other things going on right now, but in this moment here and now together, all I want you to do is breathe. Become conscious and aware of your inhale. Become conscious and aware of your exhale. Notice the mind. The mind is going in different directions, and all I want you to do, just like how your parents did with you maybe as a child, is gently, gently, gently hold the hand of that child of the mind and say, just breathe, just relax, be here, be now. We're going to chant together in one voice the syllable Om. This sound vibration is understood as being the first sound vibration in creation. And so it manifests among its vibration an atmosphere of peace, of presence, of new beginnings. And so through this chanting, you will experience, I hope, that when you open your eyes at the other end, you have the opportunity for a new start, a peaceful new beginning. I'll chant once on my own, and then I'll invite you to take a deep breath, and in unison, Estelle and I will chant together. But the first one, just hear me chanting alone. Deep breath now. Beautiful. Twice more. Deep breath. Together, deep breath. Slowly bring yourself back to room awareness and very gently opening your eyes once again. Being back with us in the podcast for Love, Purpose, Connection with Estelle Bingham.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Something accessible, and I'm sure that for those that have never chanted before, that was hopefully an entry point for you. And I know that my book and the chants that I have are multivaried and different musical types. And I just thought that in this moment, hearing that, well, subtly hearing all of you through the camera, that you're all thinking about new beginnings. So that was for you.
So beautiful. Thank you so much.
Grateful.
And thank you so much, Rādhikā Dās, for being here.
I'm grateful.
It was a really beautiful time. And I'm really happy that you have shared all of your wisdom and all of the beauty of your journey with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for listening to Love, Purpose, Connection with me, Estelle Bingham. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. I'd really appreciate that. And if you really liked it, then leave me a review so I can keep doing what I love, healing one heart at a time. You can also follow me, Estelle.Bingham, on Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest releases. If you feel in need of some extra guidance, then my book, Manifest Your True Essence, could be helpful. You can find it online or in any major bookshop. In the meantime, thanks again for listening, Thanks again for watching, and I will join you on the next episode of the Love Purpose Connection podcast.